Hello. Thank you very much for joining me today. How are you? Today I'm going to react to who invented the metric system, which is weird. What? Invented the metric system? According to Europeans, you'd think it was bestowed upon us by God. And this right here is just blasphemous. Why it isn't as perfect as you think. No. Ye of little faith. Should be burned at the stake for this YouTube title. Be smart. Check them out, link down below. It's America's greatest sin to have not adopted the metric system. That's why we got Donald Trump. All right, let's see. And I agree, by the way, the imperial system is just plain stupid.
This episode is supported by CuriosityStream. This is a meter, but it's not.
No, that's a yardstick. I haven't seen a yardstick in like decades. I mean, you guys have probably never seen a yardstick, but like growing up through school, you always saw yardsticks. You know what I mean? They were always in the classroom. I haven't seen one in decades, I just realized. But anyway, I do know a meter is a little bit longer than a yard.
The meter. The meter isn't a physical object, locked away in some secret vault somewhere. The meter is a math problem. Take the distance light travels in 1 second and cut it into this many chunks. That's how we define a meter. But
that's pretty smart.
Why that number? Why not?
Because this way, even aliens have the same meter. You know what I mean? Well, unless they have different light.
This many chunks, or this many. It's the fundamental unit of the metric system, a unit built into the very foundations of physics. So surely something in the basic laws of the universe explains why a meter is a meter. But that's not the case. The real story is...
Didn't he just explain? I mean, obviously a person at some point has to kind of arbitrarily be like, yeah, we're going to measure it for 1 second, you know, or whatever. But yeah, it is based in the physics of the universe.
It's full of discovery, deception, and a lot of people get it.
I'm sick today, guys. I'm trying my best.
Their heads cut off. 1789. The French people have a lot of problems with the monarchy, and Louis was gonna hear about it. In their airing of grievances, the people included demands to fix France's system of weights and measures. It was a confusing mess. Every town and trade basically measured things how they wanted. This was not a new problem. The ancient Egyptian cubit was...
Because different kings had different length feet. That is a big problem.
Said to be the length of a man's arm, and the English inch was 3 pieces of barley laid end to end. But whose arm and whose barley? In France, a pound of bread sometimes really was lighter than a pound of lead. Its people were using some 250,000 different measures, which made trade difficult and cheating easy. A pint of beer in Paris, 2/3 the size of a pint in Saint-Denis. If ever there
was a scam
or an injustice worthy of revolution, it was that. France's revolutionary spirit wanted united and equal measures for a united and equal people. But French savants, being the enlightened dudes they were, set their goal even higher. A universal measure for all nations derived from nature itself. Rulers, who needs them? The basic unit of length would be called the meter, and all other units derived from that. The division...
I wonder what made them use the word meter. Something used to measure. Actually, what's the French word for meter?
Divisions of those units would be decimal and given prefixes from Greek and Latin, so the whole thing would sound old and important. All that was left to do was invent the meter. One smart choice was the length of a pendulum swinging once per...
Meter. That's the French word for meter. Mitre.
Per second. Thomas Jefferson even agreed to make
meat tray.
some measurements and join America into this new metric system. Problem solved, right? Wrong. First, they had to agree on the length of a second. Some French savants wanted to throw out the day we use and replace it with a decimal day. Since no one could agree on a second, the pendulum meter was dropped.
That would be crazy.
In its place, a meter defined as 1/10,000,000th the distance between the North Pole and the equator, along a meridian passing through France. England and the USA refused to accept a measure based on a French line, and, well, we all know how that turned out.
Wait, how would they measure this to the accuracy that you're going to get 1/10,000,000th of it? That seemed kind of difficult.
Well, we all know how that turned out. In 1791, two men set out to make the meter. Their plan, measure latitude at the ends, then meet in the middle. Do a little multiplication, and you've measured the Earth. Unfortunately, they don't make 1,000-kilometer tape measures. Instead, Méchain and Delhomme would mark a series of triangles across France. Walking off just one side of a triangle in the north and south, they could use those angles to calculate the length of every link in the chain, proving trigonometry is good for something after all. This was their tool. The
Man, people are smart. Some people are smart.
repeating circle was two telescopes mounted on a ring.
That's pretty cool.
Zero in on two distant.
What a job that would be to walk in triangles around France. You can't get a job like that anymore. That's what's sad about modern day. That's not a job.
Markers and measure the angle between them. But a single measurement was guaranteed to have some error. The repeating circle was rotated and remeasured, each time adding the new angle to the previous sum. Divide by the number of measurements, and the average angle would be more precise than any single measurement. These would be the most precise surveying measurements ever attempted, giving the world an error-free meter. Unfortunately, as soon as they set off, things in France went to double hockey sticks. Revolution was in full swing. The king was in jail, then
Unlucky.
dead, and France was at war with basically everyone, but especially Spain. In city after city, people assumed the scientists with the funny tools were royal spies, and each time they barely kept their heads. But after 7 years of struggle, the triangles were connected.
Whoa.
In 1799, pages and
Is that what happened? It set off a nuclear explosion?
pages of calculations were reviewed. The distance from the North
Hold on.
Pole to the equator. 1799, pages and pages of calculations were reviewed. The distance from the North Pole to the equator was determined, and a platinum meter was cut, 1/10,000,000th as long. Mankind finally had a definitive universal measure derived from nature. There was just one problem. The meter was and is wrong. To calculate the meter, they needed an accurate measure of Earth's curvature. Since Newton, scientists knew Earth's cross-section was an ellipse, not a circle. But the results of the meter expedition claimed Earth was twice as squished as they had thought. It wasn't, they just picked a bad line to measure. Worse, the curve isn't smooth. This was a big discovery, but it also invalidated the whole premise of the meter. Earth is too irregular to be a
I mean, isn't that kind of what, like I said? That was the first thing I thought. Like, how did these brilliant dudes who walked in triangles not kind of have that thought? Like, the earth isn't smooth. That's a great idea and everything, but, walking in a bunch of big ass triangles and trying to get 1/10,000,000th and figure that out perfectly to where it's 1/10,000,000th of that distance. It's like, why would that be accurate? That's like impossible. To me, I didn't even think about the curvature of the earth. Like, yeah, that you'd have to know that like perfectly. And it better be exactly like that on that exact point going across France. Like, are there no hills and mountains or anything in the way that could mess up this equation?
its own measure. But rather than admit 7 years of wasted time, the new triangulations were combined with older measures for Earth's curvature. And the meter ended up being an estimate, a physical object, the opposite of what it was supposed to be. Plus, it turned out one of the guys fudged a bunch of his data, but that's a whole other story. Of course, today we don't measure the meter based on a hunk of metal. Or do we? In 1960, the meter was redefined as a number of atomic wavelengths, but that was calculated to match the old platinum bar. And in 1983, the meter was redefined again as the distance light will travel in 1/299,792,458 of a second. But that number was also chosen to match the old hunk of metal. Based on satellite measurements of Earth's average curvature, today we
What if it gets like hot and cold? Doesn't that, maybe platinum doesn't stretch? I don't know.
know that 10 million meters from pole to equator would leave you
You know what? Let's just go back to feet and yards.
about 2 kilometers shy. The meter was invented as a perfect ratio, but even our meter, based on the speed of light, carries an old error, 0.2 of a millimeter shorter than it should be. Of course, it's
0.2 of a millimeter shorter than it should be. Okay, that's not a big deal. That's okay. Well, no one, you know, the people who like print out the tape measures and stuff, they're probably not even that precise to be within 0.2 of a millimeter.
still a meter because we say it is. But if you shake the basic laws of the universe, a meter doesn't fall out. It's just another invention. But as inventions go, it was revolutionary. Stay curious. Hey guys, if you are like me,
That was really good. That was really cool. Very entertaining, I must say, simply. I simply must. Be smart. Check them out, link down below. And you know what? I am now convinced, and I'm going to go convert to metricism. So I'm going to go do that. You guys have a great day. I'm never going to say the word foot, yard, mile again. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.